Back from the dead, that's right. The Jonathan Kuminga trade rumors are alive again, and this time, they're not just whispers. There's real noise coming out of Sacramento. A respected Kings radio voice reignited the buzz, stirring the pot around a potential deal between the Kings and Warriors involving Kuminga. And look, while Warriors fans might feel like they've heard it all before, this isn't recycled drama. There's fresh intel, a new layer to the story, and a window into how Sacramento is viewing this entire situation. And trust me, it's strategic. So here's where things stand. The Golden State Warriors, according to multiple insiders, have officially slammed the door on sign-and-trade talk for now. But that doesn't mean the conversations aren't still happening behind the curtain. Teams like the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls had interest, but neither ended up following through with a concrete proposal. They made other moves, went in different directions, and in doing so, effectively took themselves out of the Kuminga sweepstakes. But two teams that didn't just kick the tires, they actually put offers on the table, with the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings. The Suns reportedly floated a 4-year deal, while the Kings threw out a 3-year contract worth around $63 million. Golden State didn't bite on either offer, especially not Sacramento's. And honestly, that's where things get interesting, because among those proposals, many believe the Kings had the most compelling package. Now, the Suns might be in the mix in name, but they simply don't have the assets to get a real conversation going. They're capped out, they lack draft capital, and they don't have the right blend of young players or salary-matching pieces that the Warriors would want. That alone has made Sacramento the clear-cut, most realistic trade partner if this thing is going to get done. And according to Sacramento's local voices, the Kings are operating under a very calculated assumption. They believe Jonathan Kuminga will eventually fold and sign the qualifying offer. If that happens, and he accepts the 1-year $7.9 million deal, it's a ticking clock for Golden State. The Warriors would then be faced with a harsh reality. They could lose a former top pick for absolutely nothing next summer. That's the pressure point Sacramento is banking on. One voice close to the Kings even suggested that if it gets to that moment, Golden State will have no choice but to take what they can get. In this case, Malik Monk and a protected first-round pick. It's not a haul, but it's a hell of a lot better than watching a lottery talent walk away for free. Personally, I hope that person is right. That's been my exact stance on this saga from the beginning. And I get it. The Warriors' front office sees value in Kuminga. They still believe in his upside. So from their perspective, moving him for what they consider pennies on the dollar probably feels like waving the white flag too soon. But we're not talking about just basketball value here. We're talking fit, timing, and direction. Golden State is trying to squeeze one more championship run out of this core. Keeping Kuminga around, with all the uncertainty and tension that's been lingering for months, only makes things messy. Let's look at the offer on the table. Sacramento's trade package reportedly includes Malik Monk and a protected first-round pick. In return, Golden State would send out Kuminga and either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody. And I'll say this straight up, if the Warriors can complete that trade without including Moody, they absolutely should. I'm not giving up Moses Moody in that deal. Not when he's proven he can defend multiple positions, thrive in small ball lineups, and offer real two-way value on a nightly basis. Buddy Hield? That's a different story. Look, Buddy Hield had a great postseason. He came up clutch in big moments, knocked down huge shots, and proved he can still be a microwave scorer when the lights are brightest. But if we're talking about long-term value, roster balance, and future development, Moody's ceiling is way more intriguing. The age, the upside, the defensive versatility, you don't throw that away lightly. Buddy, as good as he's been, is more replaceable, especially if you're bringing back someone like Malik Monk. Speaking of Monk, his game is severely underrated. Let's not pretend like this is some throw-in piece just to make salaries match. Malik Monk was the Kings' de facto point guard for stretches last season when De'Aaron Fox was hurt. And he didn't just hold it down, he thrived. Averaging nearly 7 assists per game during that span, he showed he's not just a scorer, he's a creator. He can take on primary ball handling duties, he can run the second unit, and he can even play off of Steph Curry in a way that keeps the offense dynamic and less predictable. Monk's shooting splits weren't perfect last year. He was streaky from three, but the volume was there, and his overall shot profile is exactly what Golden State's system thrives on. He takes catch-and-shoot threes at a high rate, which means he can plug right into the Dubs' off-ball movement and spacing concepts. In Sacramento, he didn't have the luxury of Curry-level gravity pulling defenders away from him. In Golden State, those looks are going to get cleaner, way cleaner. And for those worried about losing shooting with Buddy Hield gone, relax. Monk can shoot the ball. D'Anthony Melton, if the Warriors finalize that signing, can shoot the ball. You're still looking at a backcourt rotation that includes Steph, Monk, Brandon Podziemski, Moody, and Melton. That's a solid group. You're not giving up spacing. You're not giving up ball handling. If anything, you're balancing out the rotation with players who can give you something defensively as well. Now, let's talk about defense, because this idea that Jonathan Kuminga is some kind of defensive stopper, it's a myth. He's got the physical tools, long arms, quick feet, explosive athleticism, but he doesn't have the defensive IQ or the consistent effort to match. You can't be a great defender just because you look like one. You've got to study film, understand angles, rotate on time, communicate, and Kuminga doesn't do that consistently. If you go by advanced playoff metrics, he was one of the worst defenders on the team. Dead last in defensive box, plus-minus in the postseason. That's not hating. That's reality. Even in the regular season, when people were pushing this narrative that he was Golden State's best on-ball defender, the data just doesn't support that. According to B-Ball Index, Kuminga ranked 7th on the team in perimeter isolation defense last year. 7th, behind guys like Gary Payton, Moses Moody, D'Anthony Melton, and even Jimmy Butler, who, by the way, played much of the season hurt and still put up 30 in a playoff game. So let's not act like Kuminga was carrying the defense. And offensively? Sure, he's flashy. He can attack the rim, he can finish through contact, and he's got a bit of a mid-range game. But he still doesn't understand how to move without the ball in a system like Golden State's. He needs the ball in his hands to be effective, and that's just not happening when Steph Curry is on your team. When you add in the attitude concerns, the idea that Kuminga thinks he's a star, even though he hasn't proven it consistently, it becomes clear that a split might be the best option for both sides. That's what makes the Kings such a natural trade partner. Malik Monk is a ready-made contributor. He doesn't have to be the guy, but he could be a guy. And with his contract lined up and a potential unprotected pick from Sacramento in the mix, Golden State could actually walk away from this with flexibility and depth instead of drama and uncertainty. Because let's be honest, if Kuminga actually goes through with signing that qualifying offer, he's betting on himself in a way that could backfire badly. Think about it. He'd be turning down a multi-year deal worth over $20 million per season just to make $7.9 million next year and then hit unrestricted free agency with no guarantees. He risks injury. He risks another year of inconsistent minutes. And he risks being labeled as a difficult player who overvalues himself. And that's where his agent, Aaron Turner, comes into the picture, because this has been mismanaged from a jump. Turner's out here arguing with burner accounts on Twitter, throwing out denials about contract offers, and trying to run damage control when it's probably already too late. This isn't how you navigate free agency. You don't posture your way out of $24 million per year over ego. You don't turn down that kind of security when you've yet to prove you're worth it. And when Golden State sees that type of behavior from your camp, they're not going to suddenly sweeten the pot. If anything, they're going to dig in deeper. And this is where the Warriors front office needs to ask itself the hard question. Is holding on to Kuminga worth the headache? Is this really the guy you want around when you're trying to squeeze every last bit of contention out of Steph Curry's twilight years? Or do you take the sure thing? A proven scorer in Monk, a pick you can use for future flexibility, and a roster that's more cohesive and drama-free? Because the deeper you go into this standoff, the worse it gets for both sides. Golden State risks alienating their locker room. Kuminga risks his own value cratering. And Aaron Turner risks having this whole saga pinned on his miscalculations. If cooler heads prevail, this deal with the Kings makes more and more sense. And hey, if Sacramento is willing to remove protections from that first-round pick, make it fully unprotected, that changes everything. At that point, the Warriors would be foolish to say no, because that pick could be gold in a few years, especially if the Kings regress or run into injury problems. It's a smart play for the future, and it's a move that still keeps you competitive right now. So yeah, the Kuminga situation might have come back from the dead, but this time there's actual momentum. And unless something dramatic shifts, this might be the cleanest path forward for all parties involved. So now let's dig even deeper into the implications of this entire saga. Not just for Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors, but for the broader direction of the franchise and how this situation reflects on both the front office and the player representation side. Because at this point, it's not just about the trade itself. It's about how a once promising future piece in the Warriors' puzzle has turned into a complicated standoff, filled with miscommunication, misplaced expectations, and maybe, just maybe, a necessary breaking point. Let's start with Joe Lacob. Say what you want about him, and people definitely do, but there's no question he's deeply invested in every layer of this organization. Some would argue too invested. From personnel moves to roster-building philosophy, Lacob has had his fingerprints on virtually every decision that's been made over the past few years. And while that kind of hands-on ownership might look great in theory, it often blurs the line between visionary leadership and overbearing micromanagement. That's a big part of what's happening here with Kuminga. Lacob was one of the biggest believers in the two-timeline strategy. He wanted to build for the future and win in the present. That's how players like James Wiseman, Moses Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga ended up as top picks while Steph, Klay, and Draymond were still contending for titles. It was a bold idea, and in some ways, it was admirable. But in hindsight, it might have been a little naive, or at the very least, poorly executed. Because let's be real, you can't develop raw prospects and chase rings with a veteran core at the same time unless you have a truly unique ecosystem. The Spurs pulled it off to some extent with Kawhi Leonard, but Kawhi wasn't trying to build a personal brand from day one. He fit into their system because that's what the system demanded. Kuminga, for all his talent, hasn't shown the same willingness to buy in, and that's a problem. Now, here's where Lacob's involvement becomes a double-edged sword. He's the one who wanted Kuminga. He's the one who believed this kid could be a future all-star, a two-way wing who could eventually take over for Draymond or even Wiggins. But now that it's clear things aren't working out, Lacob is reportedly reluctant to trade him unless the return is overwhelming. He's emotionally tied to the investment, and that's clouding the team's judgment on what should be a pragmatic basketball decision. It's not just about upside anymore. It's about reliability. Kuminga, in year 4, still doesn't have a defined role. He's still inconsistent. And worse, the noise around his attitude, his lack of defensive buy-in, and his overestimation of his offensive game has become a distraction. Whether he stays or goes, it's hard to see how this ends with both sides feeling good about the outcome. There's also a broader question about how this situation will impact other players on the roster. Moody, for example, has played the good soldier role. He stayed quiet, kept grinding, and made the most of his minutes. But how long can that last if Kuminga keeps getting more opportunities despite not capitalizing on them? How does that affect team dynamics? How does it impact Steve Kerr's rotations? These aren't small things. In a league where chemistry can make or break a season, these decisions ripple throughout the locker room. Whispers are circulating across the NBA landscape as Victor Wembanyama, the French phenom who has captivated basketball fans worldwide with his unprecedented combination of height, agility, and court vision, is reportedly on the verge of joining the Golden State Warriors. Sources close to league insiders suggest that the team is preparing a historic contract offer, one that could redefine rookie agreements and signal a new era for the franchise. Comparisons to Luka Doncic have already begun to surface in media outlets, with analysts and enthusiasts alike speculating that Wembanyama's unique skill set might mirror the kind of impact Doncic had in his first seasons in the league. The Warriors, who have been searching for a long-term anchor to rejuvenate their roster post-Durant era, appear to have identified Wembanyama as the centerpiece for their future. If the rumors hold true, this move would not only create excitement among Bay Area fans, but also send shockwaves across the NBA as teams scramble to anticipate how the presence of such a transcendent talent might shift league dynamics and alter the competitive landscape for years to come. The anticipation surrounding this possible acquisition has been described by insiders as electric, with speculation now dominating sports talk shows, podcasts, and social media threads where fans are debating every aspect of what this could mean for the Warriors' championship trajectory. The historical nature of the proposed contract is already fueling conversations, as reports hint at figures that could make Wembanyama the highest-paid rookie in league history, surpassing previous benchmarks set by other generational talents. While the Warriors have never shied away from bold moves, the sheer scale of this potential deal has experts questioning how it will impact team salary structures, luxury tax implications, and roster construction moving forward. Beyond the financials, the possibility of Wembanyama donning the Golden State jersey has ignited a frenzy of comparisons, with pundits analyzing his style, physical attributes, and basketball IQ in meticulous detail. Many are suggesting that his floor spacing abilities combined with rim protection and passing range could make him a transformative piece in Steve Kerr's system, potentially ushering in a new wave of positionless basketball built around a singular, versatile superstar. Rumors also indicate that internal team discussions have focused on the balance between nurturing Wembanyama's development and maintaining championship-level competitiveness, reflecting both excitement and caution. Analysts are debating whether pairing him with established stars like Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green could create a seamless blend of veteran experience and youthful dominance, or if integration challenges might arise, turning this rumored signing into one of the most closely watched storylines in professional basketball history. Insiders claim that the Warriors' front office has been meticulously planning for a scenario where Wembanyama could immediately contribute while also growing into an MVP-caliber player over the next several seasons. Scouting reports, many say, describe him as a generational talent, with uncanny basketball instincts that evoke visions of both Shaquille O'Neal and Kevin Durant in different facets of his game, fueling the Luka Doncic comparisons even further. The potential addition of Wembanyama has prompted speculation that the team might strategically adjust its offensive and defensive philosophies to maximize his unique skill set, with whispers of modified rotations, expanded pick-and-roll schemes, and enhanced three-point spacing being considered. Social media chatter around this possible acquisition has reached fever pitch, with fan-made graphics, mock-ups, and highlight compilations flooding platforms as supporters imagine what it would look like to see the young French star in a Warriors uniform. Even within NBA circles, executives and coaches are rumored to be monitoring every detail, debating whether this move could inspire a trend of aggressively pursuing generational talent earlier in their careers. The buzz is so intense that some suggest Wembanyama's potential signing could dominate headlines for months, eclipsing standard off-season coverage and establishing a narrative of bold ambition, strategic risk-taking, and a quest for long-term supremacy that could reshape the perception of the Warriors dynasty in the post-Kevin Durant era. As the speculation continues, analysts are dissecting every aspect of Wembanyama's potential arrival, from team chemistry and positional fit to injury history and off-court temperament, reflecting the intensity of the rumors swirling around the Warriors organization. Basketball commentators suggest that the franchise's willingness to invest heavily in a young prospect indicates a strategic pivot toward long-term dominance, blending the excitement of a new star with the lessons learned from previous championship pursuits. Comparisons to Luka Doncic remain a central theme, not just in terms of playing style, but also regarding the broader narrative of young, transcendent players entering a league and immediately impacting both performance and public perception. Rumors further hint at the possibility of additional roster moves designed to complement Wembanyama's skills, including trades, free agent acquisitions, and adjustments to the coaching staff's strategic priorities. The intensity of the speculation suggests that even in the absence of official announcements, the mere prospect of this signing is reshaping conversations about the upcoming NBA season, influencing draft strategies, and altering the perception of how franchises pursue generational talent. Fans, media, and league insiders are collectively bracing for the ripple effects, With the potential Golden State acquisition of Wembanyama becoming one of the most compelling and widely discussed rumors in recent basketball history, marking a tantalizing what-if scenario that has everyone imagining the dawn of a new Warriors era. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.